Now, here's the hosts of Top Story, Kelly Klass and Jill Skeen.
And welcome to Top Story. Well, there you go. That was a big, no.
No, it was a huge hit.
That was a huge hit with Paul Revere and the Raiders way back when I first got started in radio.
How many times did they want you to play it?
Oh, my gosh. That was, the phone would ring. By the way, Paul Revere, dead at the age of 76.
Yeah, I had cancer.
Yeah, lived in Garden City.
See, I didn't know that. When I read that today, I said, tell me ago he was from Idaho? And he said, yeah. I don't know if too many people outside Idaho really knew that. I didn't know that. You just never think about where someone's from.
Yeah. Well, we have one from Twin Falls is Gary Puckett. I don't know if a lot of people know that or not.
No.
Gary Puckett and the Union Gap.
Nope.
I went to school with Gary's sister.
Did you?
Yeah. So anyway, Paul Revere Dick is his name, and his given name, dead at the age of 76 from cancer.
Yeah.
And that song, Indian Reservation, there was another one called Let Me, I believe it was.
Louie Louie.
Louie Louie. So many songs they had. But back in the day when I first started in radio, live in the studio, taking phone requests, I'll bet, of course, back then the request line rang constantly.
Yeah.
And of course, the guy on the air was the one taking the calls. I was there by myself at night.
No wonder this is
calls.
the start of you being driven crazy
my gosh,
by phone calls.
Yeah.
No wonder you don't like talking on the phone.
It was a short drive, I'll tell you. And anyway,
if this phone rings one more time.
Yeah. And
we didn't even say good morning,
rang.
Kelly and Jill here.
I know we did.
Hello, good morning. Anyway, but. So they wanted that. They said it was a big hit in 1971.
Yeah, that would be about right.
Yeah.
And probably 4 out of 5 requests wanted Indian Reservation. I mean, you could be playing it on the air at the time, and they would be calling wanting to hear Indian Reservation by Paul
So my
Revere.
question is, when they call, so after you play the song, how long do you have to wait to play it again when they're calling to request it? What was the magic of this, Kelly?
I like to wait till the next hour anyway.
Uh-huh.
But
and you would tell them what? We're playing it. We'll play it again in the next hour. Hang on.
My patented response was, "I'll see what I can do."
Really?
Yeah.
Because I'm not the head person here.
It was either that or it's playing right now. You idiot! Can't you hear it?
I bet you didn't say idiot, though.
No, I didn't, but I felt like it.
Oh, my gosh. This explains a lot now, Cal.
Oh, I tell you. Yeah, it was...
it was a good song. Even hearing it now, you're like, yeah, it's a great song. And the words. Wow, how powerful.
They had a lot of great songs. One of the ones that I kind of noticed, nowadays made in Japan, it shows you how old that song is, because now that would be China today.
Well, yeah. I'm sure there's a few made in Japan, too.
Well, there are, but at least Japan has quality stuff, and China does not. So.
Well, anyway, that's, you know what, rest in peace.
Yeah, no kidding.
He brought a lot of joy to a lot of people with his music, and it's still priceless. You hear it, and you're like, yeah, this is an awesome song.
And even now, of course, I'm sure the hits on YouTube with all their songs will go through the roof. You know, that usually is what happens.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But at any rate, hey, welcome to Top Story. And coming up this morning at 8:40, we have Randy Staples with his Idaho political update. At 9 o'clock, we'll have Twin Falls County Commissioner Leon Mills. And at 9:20, we have Chris Anderson from the CSI Harrod Center and Planetarium.
That's right. So we're kind of full.
It's
but, keep your questions. It's a blood moon.
Yes.
And we'll find out what that means.
Coming up, too, we're going to talk. There's an interesting article this morning, over the weekend, I guess, in the Times News about kids not eating school lunches anymore. So I thought we would talk about that and ask you what your kids do. Do they not like school lunches anymore? Do they like them better? So anyway, we'll get a little conversation going about that.
Yeah. Well.
By the way, for motorists, the intersection of Orchard and South Washington Street is once again open.
Oh, yes.
It looked like it was open yesterday. I didn't go through it yesterday.
It was open yesterday.
Was it? Yeah. So
we did go through it.
So now you don't have to avoid that area.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of nice because that was kind of on my main route into town. Instead, I was coming down Harrison, which is just as good, but Anyway, last Wednesday we talked to Twin Falls City Council person Rebecca Mills-Soyka, and we had a question about what the construction was on Blue Lakes proper. Looked like they were putting in some sidewalks and stuff like that. Okay, she had the answer. She got it from the city engineer Jackie Fields, which here's the response. We had a federal aid project to put in ADA ramps, which is American Disabilities Act ramps, and chose to connect 2 ramps with sidewalk across city-maintained property. This is close to the East Five Points and helps Bickle kids. So.
Also, she had the thing about the water fountains. Did you print that?
Oh, remember, I didn't print that. There was one more? I didn't see that one.
Well, yeah, because the question was about the water fountains.
The lava water fountains in Harmon Park.
Yeah. And now I can't remember what it said. It was something like they were historic. They were just...
Yeah, they were kind of dilapidated, but yet they're historic. Those things have been there since I was a kid.
Very historic.
And that was the middle of the last century.
Very historic.
So, yes.
So, anyway, apparently they're not working. I don't think they were planning to tear them down, were they?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about them.
I thought, well, she sent us a response. Where is it?
I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
You didn't?
No. I get 1 million emails a day, and some of them get left through the cracks, I'm afraid.
Yeah. It was on the same email, but now I can't find it, so.
Okay.
All right, then.
Okay, we got a couple more news items here, but I don't know that they're all that
Well, you want to talk about Bras Across the Canyon real quick? Oh, yeah, no, we do have. There is some breaking news right now.
Oh, that's right. Go ahead.
The Supreme Court has just turned away appeals from 5 states seeking to prohibit same-sex marriages, paving the way for an immediate expansion of gay and lesbian unions. The justices on Monday did not comment in rejecting appeals from Indiana, Oklahoma, Utah, Virginia, and Wisconsin, and the court's order immediately ends delays on marriage in those states. Couples in 6 other states, which I'm assuming might be Idaho, should be able to get married in short order. So that would make same-sex marriage legal in 30 states in the District of Columbia. But the justices have left unresolved for now the question of same-sex marriage nationwide. But they are not going to take it up, which means that the lower court's rulings are presiding, and now they can all get married. And I assume that covers the lawsuit that we were in as well.
Probably does. So late breaking
So I guess
news.
We now have like $1 to $2 million extra dollars in the hopper that we don't have to spend fighting that lawsuit.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Well,
if we continue it or not. I don't know what the point would be continuing it. I think it's kind of a waste of money, but because we've lost that anyway.
Well, when the Supreme Court isn't going to take it up,
that's the end of the road.
That's it. The lower court's rulings. I mean, that's it. So there you go.
That's the end of the road.
It's the end of the road. So
at any rate, interesting story by Lori Welch in the Times News over the weekend. About food in the, this was actually specifically about the school lunchrooms in the Burley area. But it is probably a commentary on the lunchrooms in most schools in the country. But I thought it was interesting. She said at Burley High School, 1/4 of students who ate school lunches every day have stepped out of the cafeteria line. Those 100 teenagers now bring sack lunches, dash off campus for fast food, or skip the meal altogether. Basically what happened is the new guidelines that were put into place that were promulgated by First Lady Michelle Obama has turned out to be really not one of the favorite things of the kids. Because they say that the food, there's not enough food now.
Not enough sodium in it.
Yeah, and it's kind of bland tasting food. I would be, and so therefore, and this is the way it's been going on around the country, there have been fewer and fewer kids taking school lunch because of this. They're bringing their own, or they're going off campus and getting fast food or whatever. But there was, I should have marked it and I didn't, but one of the ladies who was involved in the food service in the Burley school area said, let's see, Charlene Bartlome, kitchen manager at Burley High, said she hasn't heard that complaint from students, but she has noticed ball players buying sandwiches from a food truck and bringing them into the cafeteria to eat with the school meal. One of them said it's not necessarily the calories they're getting at school that's making kids fat. It's the inactivity. So anyway, we'll talk about that when we come back. Well, that segment went fast. But if your kids are in school, if they took or take school lunches, we'd like to hear from you and get their opinion on the school lunches. 736-0300 is the number to call, and we'll be right back. 736-0300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Get a hold of Pat Hartzell with Stanley and Company if you have need of a low-end honey loader on your farm or ranch or feedlot, dairy, you name it. If you have a lot of animals, this might be something you want to consider, which can load all types of manure, liquid, frozen, and dry. And if you want to see one of these in operation, Pat Hartzell is the guy to get a hold of because he can make that happen, 280-1167. And if you want to purchase one, he can make that happen too, 280-1167. Pat Hartzell is his name with Stanley and Company with the Lowen Honey Loader. 736-0300 is the number to call. In the story over the weekend from Lori Welch of the Times News talking about school lunches, the dwindling number of diners at Burley High School could jeopardize the school's lunch budget, most of which comes from federal reimbursements based on how many lunches are served, according to Angela Rodriguez. She's the Cassia County Schools Food Service Director. Landon Gunnell is 16. He says he likes school lunch, but only eats it once a week because it's not enough food. When it baked its own bread, according to Gonzalez, the high school had 600 students eating school lunch every day, compared with 300 now. Kitchen staff experimented with whole wheat recipes, but students didn't like the bread, so now the school buys most of its breads and has cut back on its cooking. Most entrees are purchased frozen from vendors that manufacture the products to meet the guidelines. There are a lot of challenges. The students have noticed there is not as much flavor in the food, said Rodriguez. We don't want to take away the nutritional value of the meal, but we don't want to lose kids eating lunch either.
And then you have Natalie Christensen, 18, says she eats school lunch often. I think it's pretty good. There are not a lot of leftovers at home, so I stay here and eat. So there are kids that eat, and there are kids that no eat. There don't eat.
Not everybody doesn't like it.
No.
But fewer like it now apparently than used to because the numbers are dwindling on the amount of kids who eat the lunch. Marty March, kitchen manager at Dworshak Elementary in Burley, returned to the school lunch program after working elsewhere for 1.5 years. There are a lot more fruits and vegetables now, she says, and only about 20% of the 600 students bring a sack lunch. But American children didn't become obese by eating school lunch, she said. Their activity level is to blame. You know, I think there's a lot of truth in that statement. I don't.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Okay,
finish your thought. It's not just activity.
Meal a day, one meal. No, I understand. It is not just activity. Yeah, it's not just activity, no. But I don't think that the school lunches made kids fat.
No,
just the school lunches.
No, not just the school lunches.
Combination
and then
of things.
Also, some eat breakfast and lunch, but I also think the food that you eat at home is probably very representative of what the school lunch was. I mean, they had pizza, they had chicken fingers and fries. I mean, mac and cheese. These are things that kids eat, and they make them at home because the parents say, this is all my kid will eat, you know? And I know people work, and I know it's easy, and I know people don't want to fight over food. However, I think the food that they were eating in lunch was very representative of what they eat the rest of the time. And you know what? Food is very important. It's not just activity, you know, especially when kids that are younger are having strokes and heart disease at adult levels. It's crazy. So, you know, I think that's the issue, is that it was the same food they're eating at home.
736-0300 is the number to call. How about your kids? Did they like it or not? Top Story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my kids ate school lunch and they liked it, but that was a long time ago. I'm thinking of everybody's metabolism is different. I eat everything wrong, according to Jill. When I was farming a lot of acres, when I was farming a lot of acres, I'd come in and I'd have a dozen eggs in the morning and a loaf of bread and a pound of bacon every morning at 10 o'clock in the morning. And
Yep.
And I'd eat a big meal at two more times a day, and then when I came in at 11:30 or so at night, I'd have a great big huge big bowl of ice cream or whatever leftovers there was. And
Amen, brother.
I'd sleep on that, and I was healthy and I was strong and I never gained weight, and then when I went to driving truck full time, my metabolism slowed down, and I wanted to continue to eat because that's the way I like it, and I'm 30 pounds overweight now. It is activity. Your metabolism will burn up whatever you eat, whatever, if you're using your muscles.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm convinced of that.
That is true. However, you are what you eat.
Why are you arguing about it then?
Why am I arguing? Because if you think that it's healthy to eat, the way you just said, like if it doesn't affect your body, you're crazy. Just because you're not gaining weight at that time doesn't mean that it's still healthy for you. It doesn't mean that you're not, building cholesterol or, blockage in your arteries or anything like that. And that's the point. It's like, just because you run a marathon, you eat crap. To me, it's like if you're an athlete or you want to take care of yourself or future problems, you are what you eat. What you eat today makes tomorrow's blood. And if you want to instill those eating habits in your children, that once they become 18, if you think they're going to start eating a vegetable at 18, you are wrong. You are building eating habits for the rest of their lives. And
I look at my dad, who's 97 years old and still kicking, and had all the wrong foods. He ate red meat, he ate eggs, he ate lard, he ate butter, he
also ate real food too.
Well, right,
and that's a big difference.
But a lot of that stuff is considered verboten now. Oh my God, we're not supposed to be eating red meat. We're not supposed to be eating eggs. Oh my God, butter? Are you kidding me? Why, that's deadly, and all that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of it is to do with the processed foods that we have now. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Welcome back. How would you like no more moving pipe, no more spraying borders around your field? How about being able to grow and harvest crops on every square inch of your field? No more spraying those borders, no more costly labor in moving that pipe. You can find out about Certiset, available at Far More of Idaho. And we're kind of ending the irrigation season for this year. And if you're considering upgrading or changing your irrigation system for next year, talk to the folks at Far More of Idaho about Certiset, this flexible pipe that once it's there, you never have to move it again. 324-3341 is the number to call. You can also catch them online at farmoreofidaho.com. All right, so what do your kids think? Do they like the school lunches? Do they not like the school lunches? Top Story, you are on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kelly. Good morning, lovely Jill. Listen, there's a whole bunch of additives that are being added to the food, which is making them fat. They're adding oxycristcycline, the recipe, which makes that's what they use to fatten up the cows, and that's what they were putting also on the meals for the kids, and also all them hybrids and stuff. That's what's meant. And so when you take up, just read what oxycristcycline does for the body. It fattens people up. It fattens animals. And so that's why so no matter what, your metabolism can burn up, but that thing, it just clogs up your blood stuff. But that's, kids should eat, but they should eat a lot healthier. Thank you.
Well, it's true. What you put in the animals or whatever is what the kids are eating. And I was telling Kelly, they're having studies where kids are having, puberty, age 4, 6, 11, whatever, much earlier ever because of the hormones in foods and things like that. So when your dad was alive, when our grandparents were alive, their food was a lot different than our food. And a lot of it wasn't processed.
Oh, absolutely.
They made everything from scratch.
What's funny, though, is that with the low fat and the no fat and a lot of the rhetoric we hear today from the so-called experts, is all the food that we ate way back in those days was so horrible for us. And so now we've got the no-fat and the low-fat stuff. So you eat the no-fat and the low-fat stuff, and you don't feel satisfied, so you wind up eating more.
I don't condone eating that food at all.
You've got to have fat.
No, I know. That's not what's making people fat. It's really sugar, things like that. So, but look at the stuff in your food. No one's making real food anymore. Back to real food. Actually, that's my website, too. Back to real food.
7360300. Top Story, you're on the air. Do your kids like school food?
I worked at a school. I retired, and you would not believe what gets thrown away. you should go there and see what gets thrown away. And these libtards that are telling us we have to eat this and eat that, they need to follow their own rules, because they're telling us we can't eat that, but they're out there eating red steaks and everything else.
Did you work at the schools when the new guidelines went into effect?
Yes, sir.
And that was just in July.
Did you see the increase in food waste?
I sure did.
Yeah.
There's a ton of food that gets thrown away.
Yeah, that's the sad part. That is.
Well,
the
yeah,
sad
it
part.
is a sad part, and the sad part is too that people are so resistant to any kind of thing, and I think it's because it was Michelle Obama. I mean, you talk about. You could go on a whole nother topic on people telling you what to do as far as same-sex marriage, but whatever. But, as far as food, because your kid doesn't like it, do you then say, okay, Bobby, let's feed you pizza every day because you won't eat something else? Like, who in their right mind does that? You don't do that to anyone. Well, I won't eat this, but I'll eat pizza. Okay, that's great. Or chicken fingers and fries every day. How many meals? I used to teach healthy cooking classes. I used to get kids to eat healthy. And they would say to me, they are bored with the foods. They would sit there and say that. They are bored of the same 5 foods. Go teach a class with 5th to 7th graders. They are still honest at that age. They tell you stuff that you can't even believe. But they would say they were tired of the same stuff.
That's what the kids are saying now about the new foods, that it's boring, it's tasteless, and there's not enough of it.
Well, you know what? It probably doesn't have a gazillion grams of sodium, but think about it. That's what they're eating at home because that's where their taste bud levels are.
They're limiting their calories. It's like 500 to 600 calories for their meals. Maybe,
I thought
they should consider increasing that, or maybe we should just do away with the school lunches and put the onus on the parents. Okay, parents, your kids are in school, send them a sack lunch.
A lot of kids, that's their only lunch a day. But you know what? They said they were introducing lasagna rolls and chili. I mean, to me, you could have higher volume foods with lower calories. You could add more beans to your chili. You could add, more minimal things of chicken or meat, or do a meatless Monday where you could add more volume. You could add more brown rice. I never met a kid that didn't like, fried rice, and you can do it with vegetables. And there's a lot of things you could do, and I would get kids to eat anything and the little bodies were craving it, but it's the processed stuff, the high sodium, the high fat.
See if we can get one more call. Top story, you're on the air. You got about 10 seconds.
But it's the processed stuff. You got to turn on your radio.
Hello?
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 You're on.
Oh, thank you.
Got about 10 seconds.
All right. I used to work for a company called Dairy Gold, and there was a deal out there that said...
Hurry.
Margarine is one molecule short of plastic.
It's true.
Yeah, I know, and they used it to fatten.
It's like eat the real thing.
They used it to fatten turkeys before they started putting it on the market. We don't eat margarine anymore. We went back to butter.
Eat the real thing. Actually, the real thing is
We'll be right
better.
back.
Okay.
7360300 is the number to call. Coming up at 9 o'clock, we have Twin Falls County Commissioner Leon Mills joining us for his re-election campaign. At 9:20, Chris Anderson from the CSI Herod Center and Planetarium will be here to talk about some of the upcoming events there, including the Blood Moon viewing. So it's always fun to talk to him. Right now we have Randy Staples with the Idaho Political Update. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, Randy.
Good morning.
Well, after reading your update this morning, I like your update because it makes me realize a lot of things that I'd kind of had in the back of my mind, in that there aren't really a whole lot of big competitive legislative races going on in the state right now, but there are a couple, and I wonder if you could highlight those for us and tell us why it's important to the rest of us.
Well, there are a few around the state. There are a few that I think are kind of interesting and significant. There's one over in the West Boise area, in a district that has been traditionally Republican, but may be kind of switching over gradually. The city of Boise's legislative districts are all basically Democratic now, which is a big change from 15 or 20 years ago. And there's a possibility that one more district in West Boise could move in the direction of joining them. It has not up to this point, but there's a very interesting race there that's kind of interesting. There are a few others around the state. There's one up in the Latah County area, actually two House districts or two House races up there that are interesting because that's a rare district where you have the two House members from one from each party, one Democrat and one Republican, and it's possible that this time around those seats may switch in both cases. The Democratic seat may go Republican, and the Republican seat may go Democratic. In the Magic Valley, there are I'd say the race that I'd be watching the most would be one of the few legislative races where you have an incumbent from a district that mostly leans in the other direction. And there's not a lot of those around the state at this point, but there is the one in House District 26. That's the big district that's centered on the Blaine County and the Wood River Valley, but also includes 3 other counties. Steve Miller, the Republican who was elected 2 years ago, is being challenged by Richard Fosbury, and that one I think is being watched by a lot of people to see whether he's able to hold on in a district that has been mostly leaning Democratic, and where the other 2 legislators present are both are Democrats. It'll be kind of interesting to see too in the Twin Falls area what may happen with Steve Hartkin's seat, whether there's any kind of a Democratic inroad in Twin Falls. There hasn't been up until now. Democrats have not come particularly close, but it'll be kind of interesting to see whether Catherine Talkington, who's been fairly prominent in the community, might be able to make a little bit more of a push.
Well, I mean, Steve, in his last race, Rosemary Fornell got 40%, which was probably way more than they thought. So I'm thinking maybe they have more inroads than you think.
Well, that's probably, we'll see what happens. Democrats have been saying for some time that Twin Falls ought to be more competitive than the results have generally shown it to be. So we'll see how this goes this time. It'll be that will be a race that will be interesting to watch. I would not expect offhand that this will probably be the race that kind of turns the tide there and that elects a Democrat. I think it's probably less than likely just based on the history, but we'll see what happens. There are always a few surprises here and there in the legislative results when we pick up the paper the morning after in November. And that's one that I'll be kind of glancing over to see what the numbers look like.
Things are changing. Demographics are changing.
Yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, they do over time.
We're all about ready to receive our voter pamphlets, I guess. What can we expect to see in those? What kind of information do these have?
Well, there's some useful information in terms of just general voting background. As the Secretary of State's office points out, there have been a number of people that have thought that the changes in the primary election, requiring that if you're going to vote for Republican candidates, you have to register as a Republican, that somehow carries over into the general election, and as the Secretary of State's office points out, that is not the case. The general election runs the same way that it always has. The main thing that the voter pamphlet in Idaho has on it is is any constitutional amendments that are on the ballot, and there is one. But it doesn't really. It's really kind of what you might call a housekeeping constitutional amendment. It specifically says that the legislature can do something that it has already been doing for many, many years, which is to review the state rules and regulations that come out from the various departments and agencies. They've already been doing that every session for a long, long time, and they just decided that they wanted to put that authority to do that specifically into the Constitution.
Why? Why? Is there a reason why? Was there some
I'm
question
not sure
as to whether they should have done it?
Because nobody has really challenged their authority to do it, so far as I can recall. I'm not really sure what the necessity is. I think there was a feeling that because it's a fairly basic part of how government is functioning, that maybe it kind of belongs in the Constitution. I don't see on the one hand any particular harm to putting it in there because it just reinforces a long-standing existing process. But I'm not really sure of the necessity either, because nobody's really challenged the right of the legislature to do this up to now anyway.
Do you think if the legislature was more balanced with Republicans and Democrats, it might be a problem? I mean, right now, they do whatever they want.
It probably does have a lot to do with the partisan balances and who's in control of what. But on the other hand, the insistence on reviewing the rules and regs has been something that's been a very big deal, basically just in the last 20 years, since Idaho has had a unified government, which means governor and legislature all of the same party. So that's that is not where you would usually expect to see that. You'd usually expect to see that a little bit more where you had governors of one party and legislatures of another. But this is something that they have taken a lot of time and effort with over the years, and I guess they want to reinforce that. The one I'd like to mention, though, one thing about the voters pamphlet. That a lot of, and just point out that a lot of states have voter pamphlets that are a lot more extensive than Idaho's. In Washington and Oregon, for example, the voter pamphlets there have not just ballot issues on them, but all of the candidates have pages of their backgrounds. They get to make statements in them and so on. And basically, the voter pamphlets in those states, which they both send in mail and are available online, are full-scale reference books, and you can just sit down with the voter pamphlet and kind of go through them as you're marking your ballot.
That might be kind of handy, but then the other question is, does the participation in it justify the expense?
Well, that's a question that comes up, and it is something of an expense, and I suspect that it may be something that more and more moves into just electronic form over time, and that would cut down on a lot of the printing expense.
Yeah. The Republican Governors Association apparently spending a lot of money in Idaho for Governor Otter against Belukoff. So my question is, does this indicate that Belukoff might be doing better than maybe a lot of people think in a state as red as Idaho? And why haven't there been any polls? There haven't really been many polls this year coming out. I wonder sometimes if they're keeping them secret.
Well, it's a very interesting question. The few polls that there have been, and there have been a few, but those have shown Governor Otter with a big lead over A.J. Belukoff. It is kind of a curious thing. The usual general principle in politics is that if you have a good poll, you put it out there so that your candidacy is looking, pretty good and pretty alive.
So maybe Otter doesn't have a good poll either.
Well, it's somebody. Presumably, somebody has a good poll, or at least in some kind of a context. From Belukoff's perspective, if it were close, it would that would be a good poll for him, because what's been out there previously has shown a big lead for Otter. And if he doesn't have such a poll that shows that, well, I would think that he would be polling one way or another. There's certainly enough money in the campaign treasury to be doing that. And if he's not releasing the information, then you have to wonder. I wouldn't be assuming that he's just sitting on really favorable polling information.
On the other hand, do you think it could be reverse psychology, thinking that maybe if he puts out that he is doing well, then the other side, meaning Otter's campaign, is really going to come after him harder?
Well, the only thing there is that the Otter campaign has been seems to have been kind of energized and is acting as if it is quite concerned. Maybe part of it has to do with the Libertarian candidate,
right.
John Bujak, who could be drawing some of the Republican votes out. Now, traditionally, they haven't gotten much more than about 1 or 2% of the vote, so it's usually not been enough to make much of a difference. It only makes a difference if the other races are very close.
Yeah.
How was I was going to say, how was the debate the other night at Coeur d'Alene? Because it was Bujak, Balukov, Otter, and pro-life. Is that right?
That's right. There were the four of them, but it didn't turn into the
Harley
Republican
Brown
primary kind of situation. This one was much more from pretty much all the reports that I've seen. This one was pretty much dominated by Balukov and Otter, and
how do you think that went? Yeah,
it seemed as though Balukov did pretty well, and Otter was a little bit more on the defensive on it.
We have a fairly dramatic rise in Idaho's personal income here of late. Do you think this is going to help Otter's campaign?
It could help a little bit. I'm not sure that a single specific data point by itself is going to matter, and there are a lot of data points that go back and forth. And this was part of what occurred in the debate in Coeur d'Alene, was that Balukov would come out with a string of data points that show Idaho is not doing very well, and particularly not doing very well relative to other states. And Otter would come out with a string of his own data points that show improvement, that show that we're better off now than we were a few years ago, and so forth. So I would expect Otter to be taking advantage of this. But it's kind of another number in the batch, and it's sort of one more arrow in the quiver, and so given that, I'm not sure that it'll by itself make a lot of difference. But it's kind of an interesting number.
And I think a lot of people realize too that politicians can make statistics say anything they want.
But facts are facts, you know.
Yeah, well, if you listen to Otter and you listen to Balukov, that's pretty good evidence of that kind of principle.
I wonder, did Otter say, well, at least we're only second in top minimum wage jobs, and before we used to be first, so our numbers are better. Like really, talk about.
I don't think that was part of his message.
Parsing
but it may have been
statistics,
part of
yeah.
Well, Randy, we're out of time. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Randy.
Okay, talk to you then.
Thank you. That's Randy Stabilis from Reidenbaugh Press. You can subscribe to his weekly update at Reidenbaugh.com, and you can hear him weekly right here on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX. Twin Falls County Commissioner Leon Mills will be joining us the first segment of the next hour, followed by Chris Anderson from CSI. We'll be back after the news. Welcome back to Top Story. 7360300 is the number to call, and welcome back, Jill.
Thanks, Callie. Same to you.
It's going to be another nice day today, I can
Good,
tell. We're
I
at 58 right now.
Oh, good.
I think last Friday at this time we were at like 42 or something.
I don't know.
I just wanted
nice.
to mention briefly that Bras Across the Canyon event on Saturday was a great event. A lot of people showed up, bringing awareness to Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it was a good place to be.
Oh, good.
So just didn't get to mention that earlier.
Okay.
Right now we have Twin Falls County Commissioner Leon Mills, Republican County Commissioner from District Number 2, running for re-election. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Hey, nice to have you here. So how's the campaign going?
I think the campaign's going really well. As a sitting county commissioner, we work good together, George and Terry and myself, and the county is doing well.
So Leon, you've been on just one term, right, so far?
Yeah, a 4-year term.
Okay, so what have you accomplished in the 4 years that you want people to know about you?
Well, I think that I am working on getting the and when I say me, I really don't mean me. I mean me and George. Because it takes three of us to operate this county. But we are working on bringing people up to market value in their wages. And we are just trying to get it to function, the way a business would be as a business. And that's kind of how I look at this county commission job, is that this is a corporation, so to speak, and that's how you'd work it. I used to manage a lumber yard for 7 years out of high school. I worked there 11 years, and then I worked for ConAgra as kind of a mid-management person, not really, a mid-supervisor. And I worked at ConAgra for 21 years, and now I've entered into the politics of county commissioning, and that has been a 4-year endeavor so far.
I know a lot of the concern, seems like anyway, there's talk comes up every once in a while, especially in the sheriff's department, of the employees of the county wanting to be on PERSI, which is the state retirement system. And the county has been kind of, I don't know what if a word would be, balking at that. What's your position on PERSI for county employees?
Well, my true position is currently the law enforcement total out at 14% retirement, and that is a 9% county contribution and a 5% that they can contribute. And at that rate, I find that to be a pretty generous retirement plan. Of course, PERSI is a good plan. I've looked at it as far as when it was brought to us, and I don't see the things that the sheriff said when he was on in March. I asked our HR people to bring forth the people who have left. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And as of March 30th, when I got this report, I have, and I'm not saying from here forward, from that day forward. And I tried to call our HR department and get the correct numbers today because, so that I'm.
Because for people who don't remember, his argument was he's losing a lot of employees because of the retirement package. That was the sheriff's argument.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
And to be honest with you, and since that date, we have lost a couple employees. And I've only ever heard in the 4 years that I have been in this office, one person who in their exit survey said, I'm leaving because of PERSI. And I think in that gap where people are leaving from this job to that job, they're going to a job that has PERSI, and for the reasons unbeknownst to us, that there's that gap, and those people had PERSI and they're leaving. And I kind of look at the city of Twin Falls, and I see in the paper all the time how they're searching for officers and patrol people, and they serve PERSI, and the counties around us do. And there's people who have worked for us several years. I mean, above 15, who are people who are not on PERSI, and they could have gone to it, but they've chosen to work for us.
So what is your biggest argument against it? I think you said it was going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money.
I think to purchase, to get in, a buy-in would be about $1 million. And our wage budget is about $17 million. And we'd be putting in about 3 or 4% more. And of course, the employee would put in a 2%. But that would equate to probably, like I'm saying, between 500,000, 600,000, 700,000. Well, we're able to levy 3% of half our budget, which is about 19 million. We have a $40 million budget. About half of it we can actually levy on property taxes and get new money. And that would be, 3% of 20 million would be about 600,000. And when we give a raise, the raises at 3% are roughly between that, about 600,000. Our employee budget is about 17 million, the compensation packages. And so I'm truly looking at how could I give a future raise if I went to PERSI? The money would still benefit them and they would get it, in the long term in retirement. But my real thing is I think that our benefit package is pretty good.
So people would have to forego their raises. At least that's what I understand.
That is true. And just recently in the first of the year, we kind of commissioned a company to come in and it checked with the 6, us being one of those 6, but the other 5 largest counties in our state, being Ada, Kootenai, Bonneville, and so on. And when the things came back, they said, Twin Falls County overall in their benefit package is 0.20. That's 1/5 of 1% below the average of the state. And so, but we did find that we have about 64 employees that were below what we consider the minimum market value. And so we, again, being Terry and George and I, talked it over, and we are going to bring all employees at least up to that minimum market value before next October 1st.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, to kind of move along, what about there's a lot of talk about development in this county. The economy is coming back now, a lot more home building and such. Where do you see development going in this county? Do you kind of see it as unimpeded, or are you going to, is it kind of controlled, or and what kind of comments do you get from county residents and developers and such as to how the county is handling development?
I think development's a great thing. Agriculture is still the our mainstay in our community. That's what built our community, and that's what we're with. But diversity is where it is, and so I'm very pro business.
But how can and I'm a resident out there, and people, you hear this all the time: pro business, pro business, pro business. But at what cost to the residents that already live here? How do we live together? Because you see the developers trying to change comp plans at every meeting. You're constantly on guard trying to stop this as residents because of our quality of life. How will you address that, and so we all can live together?
I think we go through the process as pretty much the way we have. You develop your land, you zone it an agriculture, a residential, a commercial, and then you use that for your development. Just like the builders, you have a section that you build, zone out, lot it out, and you build there. And then as you move on and you need more, then you go before the people. You take your comprehensive plan, and if you need to change the zone to fit that, I don't believe in spot zoning. I'm totally against it. So I say, as a county and as the city, we just need to follow our plan, so to speak, the comprehensive plan. And
you think it's worked well so far?
I think it has. As long as, like I say, we stick with it.
But then it can be changed so easily, and we just saw that, with the Twin Falls. They zoned or annexed a part that's outside of the water boundary, and the development was trying to expand the comp plan on Kimberly Road and 3300, and I guess it's just hard as a resident to think, are you protecting, our interests? Are you going to look at that? Are you going to see how does the comp plan of Twin match with the comp plan of Kimberly? Does that go in front of the county commissioners, and is that something that you can reassure people who live in those areas?
Yeah, we do have an area of impact agreement that we revisit about every 8 years, and that comp plan and the area of impact agreement is to plot the future growth of this community, and so the city in this agreement is to assure us that within the next 8 years or so, that they will be reaching out into that area and saying that's why they want to see and help plan the growth, And so as we do visit that and go through it, everything that is done in the area of impact is brought before us, and then we have that decision to agree with it or not agree with it, such as the zip line. They denied it, and they came before us in appeal, and we said, hey, the zip line would be a fine thing for our community.
We have a caller. Let's go ahead and take that. Well, I guess they decided not to hang around. So if you were to tell the folks anything you wanted to tell them right now to vote for you, what would you say?
I would say this is really not a one issue race. There's a lot of things that even once I got into the county commission office, that, we have 20 departments, 420 employees. We sit on about 25 boards between the three of us, and so there's a lot more than this. And really, the issue that people are saying in this Percy issue, I don't see that, because we are compensated well in the county. And people don't like to hear, but in the when you're in that, well, I'll just say where I came from in Lamb Weston. I worked for ConAgra Foods for 21 years, and we had we put in 6% of our salary, and they matched it at 3%, which is 50% of our money. And when I look at the county's compensation, we pay 100% of our employees insurance. So there's no cost there. Yeah, and that's really good.
That is good.
Yeah, and then when you look at the match of them 5% and us put in 9% in law enforcement, and we put in 8% for the other the other employees. But that's almost 200% instantly on your money.
And Percy would then be 11% you would put in. It'd go from 9 to 11 in case people. That's
right.
what the
a little over 11.
Contribution would be.
Right.
It's my understanding that the people who've been with the county plan for a while and are close to retirement would have a disadvantage if everything switched over to Percy, whereas the longer-term employees who have a ways to go yet would benefit more. Is that true?
That is so true. It is a fixed benefit, and ours is you have to be on top of it and do your planning and look at the long term. We did enter into some discussion just with the nationwide plan to get to with the employees and talk about, hey, you're in your 40s, you don't have to really be in a money market. You can go out there and take a little more risk, and then go with the people who are short term. Within 5 years, they would.
Leon, we're out of time. We got to cut you off, but time goes fast when you're having fun, doesn't it? Twin Falls County Commissioner Leon Mills, candidate for District 2 re-election, and we'll be right back with Chris Anderson. 736-0300 is the number to call this morning on Top Story. Welcome back. Friday's $100 instant winning name is Ellen Thomas.
Ellen Thomas, congratulations.
And your $100 word of the day for today is creepy.
Creepy.
I have an idea that most of the words for October will be of a Halloween nature.
Well, back in Salem, Massachusetts, it's haunted,
Oh, yeah.
Haunted happening starting at October 1st. If you want to talk about creepy, go see some of the crowds. I mean, I saw someone has real life fangs. Anyway, go on. Oh my God. Creepy.
Well, you can now. I lost my train of thought. Go to our website at newsradio1310.com. Click on Word of the Day. Type in creepy, CREEPY, and listen for your name tomorrow. If you hear your name tomorrow and you played the word today, you win $100. It's just that simple. All right, here we go. We have Chris Anderson from the CSI Harrod Center and Planetarium and Centennial Observatory.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You got a whole list of stuff that's coming up.
Yes, I do. It's going to be a busy month of October at the Harrod Center.
Creepy? Is it going to be a creepy one, though?
If you're into, full moons and full moon's the color of blood.
Moon.
And werewolves, that's where werewolves come from, or the moon, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, clearly. There's a direct correlation. You got a werewolf, there's a moon.
And lunatics, too, for that matter.
Yeah. Exactly. And trolls.
That's where the word comes from.
And higher crime and all that stuff.
More babies.
So the first order of business then is the pre-dawn lunar eclipse, which is coming up Wednesday.
That's right. This Wednesday morning, not Wednesday night, Wednesday morning. So yes, this is a pre-dawn, which means it actually starts at 2:14 in the morning. However, I don't recommend anybody get up at 2:14 in the morning for the simple reason that the initial phases of the eclipse are essentially invisible, meaning you'll look at the moon and look like a normal, everyday full moon. The time you really want to start watching, if you want to look for the subtle effects, is around 2:45 or 3 o'clock, and you're going to start to notice a little shading on one edge of the moon. By 3:14, it'll be unmistakable. You're going to start to see a bite taken out of the moon by the Earth's shadow, and that's.
But is it really worth it to get up at 3:14 for a bite, or should we wait?
Well, it really depends. I mean, the most dramatic part is totality when the moon is this dark red-orange color. But it's pretty cool seeing the moon with this kind of a semicircular black chunk taken out of it. I mean, that's just not something you see very often. Yeah. So that's those partial phases go on until 4:25. So the actual totality, 4:25. To 5:24. I know that's kind of a weird.
So Kelly will see it.
I will.
Yeah, and maximum eclipse is at 4:54. So if you're an early riser, if you're up around 5 o'clock, go out and look at the moon, and don't be surprised if it's not obvious immediately where it is. It's going to be pretty dark. You normally think, go out and look for a full moon. It'll be obvious. Well, you have to look around and go, okay, there it is. It's clearly much darker than normal. This is not going to be a particularly dark eclipse, however, because the moon's not going to be that deep into the Earth's shadow. But it'll be, depending on how much smoke and dust and ash and stuff like that around the world is in the atmosphere, it could have an effect, and you just never know until the time comes. Given that there's that volcano going off in Iceland right now, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that could make it a somewhat darker eclipse than normal. So yeah, so it should be worth a look. And of course, the observatory will be open, so folks can come over and check it out there if they like. And
are you going to be there from 2:15 on?
Yes,
2 o'clock
I am.
on?
Yes, I am.
Do people show up?
They do, and one of the cool things is
all the insomniacs in town.
Oh yeah, well, and those that work weird shifts and things
Yeah.
like that. But actually, one of the cool things about coming out this time of the morning, this time of year, is you get to see constellations and targets through the telescope that normally you wouldn't see in the evening hours until 4 or 5 months from now.
Wow.
So what's up in the early morning is basically our nighttime sky. It's a preview from for what's coming later this winter. So Orion the Hunter is up right now. Well, normally you don't see Orion until January, February if you're up in the early evening. So yeah, that's a really a good little preview. Jupiter's up in the early morning right now. You can see its cloud bands and moons. It'll be well placed for viewing. And even better, and this is a really once in a lifetime kind of thing. It just so happens that the planet Uranus is going to be almost smack dead in the middle of where the Earth's shadow is during the middle of the eclipse, which means it'll be about 1 lunar diameter to the left of the moon at mid-eclipse. Now, from the middle of town, you're not going to be able to see it with the unaided eye. But if you're out at some really nice dark location and you've allowed your eyes to get fully dark adapted, I mean completely, no exposure to artificial light for at least 20 minutes, ideally half an hour, and you look to the left of the fully eclipsed moon at 5 a.m. in the morning, there's a small chance you'd be able to see Uranus naked eye because you'll know where to look. And this will be probably a once-in-a-lifetime thing, seeing Uranus naked eye during a full moon, because, of course, the moon has to be full to be in eclipse. And that's never almost I can't imagine this is going to happen again in many lifetimes. So, yeah. And even if you don't, grab the binoculars.
Yeah.
Look at the fully eclipsed moon at 5 o'clock. Look to the left, 1 lunar diameter, and Uranus will be obvious. You will not be able to miss it.
Wow.
It'll be an obvious sort of bluish-green dot.
Because Kelly has binoculars with him at all times. So just grab them off the nightstand.
Yeah.
What is that? Oh,
So people can come up and view that. Is there any charge?
Nope, it's absolutely free. That's the best part.
If you wake up at that time in the morning, it should be free.
That's right. In fact, we should probably be giving them free donuts. No, I shouldn't say that. People are expecting free donuts now.
You should get a sponsor to sponsor your lunar eclipse.
Bring your own coffee and donuts.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be right back with Chris Anderson from the CSI Herod Center and Planetarium here on Top Story. 7360300 is the number to call here on Top Story. Wanted to tell you that Dave Hansen and the crew at Canyon Pawn, the town's newest pawn shop, want you to stop by, check out their camping stuff, their woodworking stuff, their fishing poles, their tools, their guns. They've got just anything that you would normally find at a pawn shop. They even have some new stuff still in boxes on the shelves. So it's the newest store, and like I said, I drove by there the other day.
Did you?
And it's at Shoshone and 3rd Avenue South.
You can't miss
right
it. If you miss it, you shouldn't go there then. Hello, it's right there. This one isn't tough to find, people.
Right across from Will's Toyota.
Gosh.
But they got a lot of stuff there. It's
There
a
are
nice,
far
clean
harder
store.
places to find in Twin where you give less directions. Trust me, Cal.
So tell Dave Hansen and the crew that we sent you. And
Yeah.
tickled to death to show you around the store.
If you find it, you're a real explorer. It's not hard. Okay.
Chris Anderson is our guest this morning from the CSI Herod Center and Planetarium. Before we leave the eclipse story, why do they call it a blood moon?
Well, it's just really, that's really a very recent term.
It's because it's filled with blood, right?
Yeah.
Along with cheese?
Yeah.
Okay.
That term was actually invented just a few years ago by a pastor down in Texas. So that's really
Very
not something that's been
effective.
around for very long. And, that's it. He was
Very
marketing a book. But really what they're referring to is the fact that the moon looks red-orange during an eclipse.
It
Because
does.
even though it's completely immersed in the Earth's full shadow, meaning standing on the moon, the sun would be completely blocked. What you would see if you were standing on the moon during an eclipse would be the Earth looking black. You'd be looking at the nighttime side of the Earth, and all the way around the edges of it would be a red-orange ring from the atmosphere, basically all the twilights all the way around the globe simultaneously, and they'd be lighting up the ground at your feet red-orange. So that's what we see on the Earth, is we see a red-orange moon. And depending on how clear or not clear the atmosphere is around the planet, it can have a pretty strong effect on the...
Depending on volcanoes.
Back in the 90s when Pinatubo was going off, there was an eclipse then, and the moon was almost impossible to see. during the eclipse.
It was dark?
It was so dark you could almost
dark.
not be able to find it in the sky easily. So,
wow.
Yeah, so yeah.
It's kind of exciting. I kind of like the marketing term blood moon. It kind of piques your interest,
Yeah, except
Halloween, whatever.
Except he's making a bunch of claims about apocalypse stuff, so that's
it was attached to that.
That's why I tune out at that point.
Well, still, you could make your own marketing term.
So you got a star party coming up Saturday then?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, our monthly free star party is on the 11th, and that'll start at 8 o'clock. Can you believe it's getting dark that early now?
Oh, yeah. I know. Isn't that amazing?
Yep. So yeah,
it didn't get dark soon enough on Saturday when I was fasting. You had to eat at sunset.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Why is it so light? Anyway, go on.
Well, see, you're living in the wrong time zone.
Clearly.
See, Idaho should be on Pacific time, and then you'd be much happier.
Okay.
But yeah, so that'll go from 8 to midnight, and as long as the weather's clear, we'll be there the whole time. It is free, and we'll have more than just the big telescope. We'll have several other small telescopes set up as well. And the good news is the moon doesn't rise until a bit later, so early in the evening we'll be looking for the deep sky targets, a lot of the nebulae and star clusters and galaxies and things like that. And then later on the moon will come up, we'll be able to look at it too.
So, okay, good.
That just sounds fascinating.
Yep. And then
you need to go, Cal.
Yeah. I know. I do. I really do. Behind the scenes with Outdoor Idaho.
Right. So if you've watched Outdoor Idaho for years, the program on public television, there's going to be a talk at the Herritt Center, our Herritt Forum lecture series. And this will be on Wednesday the 15th. Starts at 7:30. It's free, and it'll be with two of the hosts from
really?
Yeah, Bruce Reichert and one of the other guys from the station whose name I'm forgetting right now. Sorry, but they're going to be giving a talk about how they film, what they do.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Okay, cool.
Now, we have another partial eclipse coming up later this month.
That's right, a partial solar eclipse. Yeah, and that one bears definitely some careful instructions because unlike a lunar eclipse where you're just looking at the moon, so it's perfectly safe, a solar eclipse requires precautions to protect your eyes. You don't want to look directly at it, just like you don't want to look directly at any sun.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's slightly more dangerous because with the sun slightly blocked, it's easier to look longer without discomfort, which means more damage is being done.
So are you selling those cute little glasses for $2?
We are, yeah. And I've been telling people, please, please, please don't use welder's glass. I've heard people say, oh, I used welder's glass, my eyes were fine. No, they almost certainly were not fine because the only welder's glass that's safe is number 14. If you ask a welder, if they've ever used number 14, they'll say, you're crazy. That's way too dark. Nobody uses number 14. If you call a welding supply store and ask for number 14, they'll say, why? Is there an eclipse coming up? Because welders don't use it. It's too dark. And the electronic helmets, they also generally don't go to a level of 14.
What are the electronic helmets?
It's like an auto-darkening helmet. It uses like an LCD kind of thing. But they also don't provide the same amount of protection as a number 14 for the most part.
So the glasses you're selling at the Herritt Center?
The ones we sell are perfectly safe.
Are those the little plastic things?
They're cardboard, actually, but they've got a special film in them.
But they're tougher than the welding.
And it's because they are darker. And welding, you don't need that level of darkness for the most part. And these, they are darkened enough. And like I say, they're $2. That includes tax. I mean, you can't really
tax. What a bargain!
Tax. We will not sell out of them. I guarantee. We have literally thousands of them to sell. So
because we have warned you over the years, people.
Yep.
What time will that eclipse occur?
Okay, so that's going to be on Thursday the 23rd. It starts at 2:58 in the afternoon. So that's when the sun's going to start to show a little bite taken out of it. Maximum eclipse, the sun's going to be 49% covered at 4:20, and the whole thing's over at 5:35. Wow.
Don't look, people. Don't look up.
Yeah.
Get your glasses.
Well, and you can also do the pinhole projection thing. Yes. 2 pieces of cardboard, poke a hole in one, let the light shine through onto the other. Don't look directly through the pinhole. That's not going to help. But just let it shine from one end to the other, and you can produce an eclipsed image of the sun
just
that
buy
way.
the $2 glasses.
Or for that matter, get a sheet of pegboard and make 1,000
We'll be right back with Chris Anderson. 736-0300 is the number to call. We have Chris Anderson with us from the CSI Herritt Center and Planetarium and the Centennial Observatory. I always look forward to the first Monday of every month.
So do I.
Because we have Chris on, and he's just a wealth of knowledge.
Yes, I do,
he
too.
He is a wealth of knowledge.
I wish I would have had you as one of my teachers.
And you're so passionate about what you do, too.
Well, the universe is an amazing place. It's easy to get excited about. It really is.
Absolutely.
So there's always something new and different to see. So.
Now, you have a primitive skills class coming up.
Yeah, we do this course as a sort of a monthly series throughout the year, and the next one that's coming up, it will be on how to make animal traps.
Ooh.
And that'll be, it's actually a 3-session class, so that's going to be on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. The 23rd and 24th, those will both be from 5 to 8. And then the 25th, which is a Saturday, that'll be from 1:30 to 5:30. The cost for all 3 classes combined, because you do take all 3, is $50. And you learn how to make
cheap at twice the price.
Yeah, several different types of traps, like a deadfall trap, and how and when tells them when to use them and that sort of thing. So yeah, so if you watch these, survival shows, it's one thing to watch it; it's another thing to actually put your hands on it and do it yourself. So
how many people are going to trap their pet cat or something?
Well, that's the whole when and where to use it part. That's the
Fluffy. Do not trap your dog. Everyone loves those classes too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in fact, that's another good point. Is you probably want to get signed up for these because they do tend to fill up. So don't.
Did you give the number out yet?
Well, the Harrod Center's number is 732-6655, and you can also go to our webpage.
Well, not everyone knows that.
Yeah, that's
Chris.
true. Yeah.
Of course,
well,
you know your own Harrod Center's
page,
number.
We've got a
and you have a contest
page
coming up.
That's right. I'm glad you mentioned that. We actually have a contest that's going on right now. If you go to the Harrod Center's Facebook page and like us, you are entered automatically to win a chance for a 1-year all-access pass to the planetarium. Now, you think about that. Adult admission to the planetarium is $6. We have, probably around maybe a dozen or so different shows that'll show throughout the year. So even if you just go and see each of the new shows once, that's like $72 worth of savings there,
Yeah.
So, and then who knows, maybe some of them you like so much you'll want to see them a second time. So yeah, that's a pretty significant prize there, and it's pretty easy. I mean, just go like us on Facebook. So
how is the response to the new format of your movies?
Oh, it's been great. It's been absolutely
Have you gotten
great.
higher attendance?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, good.
It's been a really nice shot in the arm for us. And we've got some new shows coming up for the holidays. It's probably a little early to mention them now, but we've got a show about the Christmas star, about the Star of Bethlehem. And this is a different one than we've had in the past because of the new technology. This is this is an all new show for our theater. We also have Let It Snow, the one we had last year, will be coming back, the music entertainment show. But we also have one which is kind of cool. It's not strictly a Christmas show. It's more of a winter seasonal show. And it's called The Longest Night. And it's actually really well done. It's done by this puppet troupe, but rather than puppets that your hands go up inside, this is like a full body costume where their faces have like a caricature face.
So like a mascot.
I always
wanted to be a mascot.
That's
That'd
really
be
a good
so
way
much
to think
fun.
of it. But it's extremely well done. It's done sort of like an old folk tale about the nature of why do we have this darkness at this time of year.
Cool.
And it's really extremely well done. It really puts you in the environment of having.
Because the longest day of the year is what? December
22nd. Yeah.
20, so that's
shortest.
But it's just darkest. One quick question before we go: Pluto. Planet, not planet, now planet. What's happening to poor Pluto?
It is not.
What is going on?
No, it just means that someone has decided, because it's now been 10 years since the redesignation. I refuse to use the word demotion because it
was. Let it go. Poor little. What happened?
Better than asteroids. They're just different than asteroids.
Come on, poor little Pluto. He is such a complex now.
Well,
so now after 10 years, what? We're going to bring him back into the fold?
Well, no. They had several astronomers talking and discussing, and I'll be the first to admit that the definition that they've come up with for planet, which is what got Pluto kicked out, is imperfect.
What was the definitions, in case people don't know?
So the definition is it has to orbit the sun primarily, so it can't be orbiting some other body that orbits the sun.
Okay.
It has to be large enough that its gravity pulls it into more or less a sphere, so it can't be a lumpy, bumpy, potato-shaped thing like most of the asteroids are. But most importantly, and this is the one where Pluto fails, because it passes both of those criteria, is that it has to be the dominant object in its orbital region. And that's where Pluto fell down, because there's like 1,000 other objects out there. And as most people know, Pluto actually crosses Neptune's orbit, which makes Neptune the dominant object in that part of the...
Everyone knows that.
Now, absolutely.
Clearly.
Yeah, now the problem with the definition was that they originally said that the object had to have cleared its orbit. And what they meant by that was it has to have cleared it of all other things of other significant size. Well, Neptune's basically done that. There's nothing anywhere close to Neptune's size in Neptune's vicinity. But people have said, oh, well, technically then, if there's other things out there by Neptune hasn't cleared its orbit. How big is the cutoff? Well, that's the problem, is that the definition is not as precise as it could be. And that's where there's been room for people to keep debating it. I think also because the fact that there's the Pluto probe, the New Horizons probe, is going to be arriving at Pluto next summer. I think that's got a lot of
So
people
you think
excited.
we should sit there and say, well, maybe we should call it a planet?
Well, if you do.
Who decides these things?
Well, and who decides it is the International Astronomical Union. They have the job of making such distinctions so it's uniform across the entire astronomical
field. So now it's
field.
back. Pluto's back.
No, it's not.
It's back, baby.
Because the IOU has not said it's a planet.
Then who just came out and said that it was now designated as a planet again? Someone just did.
No, they didn't. There was a debate. They had a debate out at Harvard. Several astronomers went back and forth. The audience
We gotta go.
We like Pluto.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate
Chris.
it. It's time now for the Huckabee Report, brought to you by Waddell and Reed. You can hear the Huckabee Report each weekday at this time, brought to you exclusively by Waddell and Reed. Laura Nelson, Josh Funk, and Steve Stanger are the financial advisors, and the number is 736-6563. I want to tell you, every time fall rolls around, and of course now that we're in October, we're in full swing here, you may want to get out the chainsaw and start cutting up firewood and cutting up limbs that you think might fall down during the wintertime.
And it is Halloween.
It is Halloween. But if you need a chainsaw or a leaf blower, my friend, you should go to Clearwater Power Equipment for the Echo brand chainsaws and leaf blowers. Because they not only sell them, but they service them. They know all the answers to all of your questions about these. And having a good chainsaw is just a good handy tool to have around. So why go someplace else, have questions about it, have them look at you like you have two heads when you can go buy it from the place that sells it, they service it, they know all about it. Clearwater Power Equipment, they're at 252 Washington Street. You can call them at 734-7767. Ask them about their storage program through the winter. If you have a big lawnmower, you wonder, what in the world am I going to do with this through the winter?
Yes.
They can store it for you.
Nice.
So ask them about that. Clearwater Power Equipment, they're where General Building Supply used to be.
And we forgot one important detail. Chris Anderson is still with us. Why should people wear those special glasses?
Well,
what happens to your eyeballs?
Well, okay, so the problem is, if you use welder's glass that's rated lower than 14, the problem is that you can look for a long time without discomfort. And there's people who have this idea that, if it doesn't hurt, if I don't feel pain, then I'm not doing any damage. And that's simply wrong. You're actually doing more damage because you've dimmed it down to the point where you don't feel discomfort. But what you haven't done is you haven't eliminated the ultraviolet. And when that ultraviolet light, the same thing that gives you a sunburn, you're basically sunburning your retinas.
Ow!
And the ultimate consequence of that is going to be that you're going to get cataracts much sooner than you normally would have.
So there you go.
So early
cataracts,
onset cataracts.
People.
And it's not going to show up the day after the eclipse. But some years down the road, you're going to have cataracts earlier than you would have otherwise.
Then you can go, I remember that time I looked at a solar eclipse.
That's right.
And I didn't listen to Chris.
That's
$2 for a pair of glasses.
$2.
$2.
Yeah.
Herod Center.
How much is cataract surgery?
$2.
More than $2.
That's all it takes. Okay, we had to have our public service announcement.
That's
so
right.
thank you.
And don't miss the lunar eclipse Wednesday morning.
That's right.
That would be Tuesday night.
That's right.
Late Tuesday night.
Yep.
So all you
Early
insomniacs
Wednesday
or people get off a shift or
And
Kelly class.
And if you want to know the times, if you've forgotten
Yeah.
the times I gave earlier, dial the observatory info line 732-MOON.
732 Moon.
Yep.
How did you guys
very
get
cool.
that?
Because no one else wanted 6666.
The sixes.
I know, it's
All right.
4, so it's not 3.
It's not 3 people. It's not the devil, I swear. All right,
thank you
thanks,
very
Chris
much.
Anderson.
Always fun having you.
Jill.
We'll see you tomorrow. We have Steve Millington tomorrow with the Twin Falls Republicans. Who else do we have tomorrow, Jill? Do you have it up there or not?
We have, no, I'm on the wrong week. Mark Dorr. Isn't it Mark Dorr?
Mark Dorr with Idaho Fish and Game Commission.
Fish and Game Commissioner.
All right.
Right.
So that and more here on Top Story. See you then. Goodbye, Jill.
Bye, Cal.